If you want to be a part of the conversation before it happens here on YouTube, click that link in the description to join the free Courtside Financial Discord. What's going on, everyone? My name's Obi and welcome back to Courtside Financial. Today we're actually going to be addressing a very important question in the Chinese automobile industry. The question of if car makers need their own operating systems. But before we get into today's video, make sure you click that like button because it really does go a long way in helping out the channel and helping out the video. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we'll be putting out a lot of content this year. Lastly, make sure to click the notification bell icon so you're notified as soon as any new content is released on the channel. Okay, so to kick things off, let's set the stage. If you're not already privy to this, nothing is going to be how it used to be in the automobile industry. What do I mean by that? Consumers are demanding more and more technology out of their vehicle. The purpose of an automobile is becoming more and more robust as time goes on. You think about things like autonomous driving, being able to run applications in your cars like video games, YouTube, etc. All these things are a byproduct of consumer demand, and in turn the industry is moving that way. Car companies are being forced to pivot from merely manufacturers who sell transportation devices to technology companies. Bottom line is that we're moving into a software-defined car era, which represents a lot of complexity for manufacturers. Complexity from battery technology all the way down to operating systems, which many companies are overlooking in China. Whether car companies need their own operating systems or not has become somewhat of a philosophical question. And if I'm being honest, I don't have the answer either. However, the future impacts of the decision that these OEMs make today in regards to that question will have major impact on their respective businesses in the future. Before I discuss further, let's define what an operating system actually is. If you're watching this video, you're already interacting with the operating system most likely on a daily basis. The term operating system, or OS, refers to the software that sits between the user and the computer's hardware. One or more operating systems are required for all computers. Software like web browsers and office suites can't function in isolation. The operating system facilitates communication between you and the computer, even if you don't understand the language used by the machine. Every computer, mobile device, and even today's vehicles require an operating system in order to function. So in terms of computers, think Windows, Mac, Linux. In terms of vehicles, Guotai Junan has produced an analysis showing majority of vehicle manufacturers in China build their operating systems off three dominating platforms: QNX, Android, and Linux. Linux is the world's most popular open source operating system, meaning that the source code is publicly available and easy to access. Everyone who can write code is welcome to add to, improve, and share the source with anyone else for any reason or purpose. As an operating system, Android is designed to run on top of another operating system in order to create a more robust, feature-rich, and whole operating system. Or to put it another way, Android operates at a more abstract level and Linux is simply the resource that it's built off of. In the smartphone world, Android and iOS dominate the market. The technology is so mature that it in itself has become a barrier to entry. No one else has successfully managed to create another operating system that has gone mainstream and presented a valid use case. In computers, it's mainly Mac OS versus Windows, although Linux still has specialized use cases. Windows is the most used at 76%, followed by Mac OS by Apple, which is at 16%, and Linux-based operating systems at 5%. If you're providing a service over the internet, chances are good that your server runs Linux. Desktop Linux is used in the scientific and engineering fields, but not quite as frequently as Mac OS or Windows. Developers for the internet and sysmanagers for Linux-based servers sometimes use Linux on their personal computers as well. As I mentioned before, popular car companies like NIO, BYD, XPeng had their own operating systems created with some of these open source operating systems like Linux as the foundation. With the complexity level of the applications that are meant to be run on cars in the future, EV makers in China could be pigeonholing themselves down the road. What do I mean by that? To my earlier points that operating systems in the smart car industry are not decentralized and that two or three foreign companies pretty much own the bottom layer of these companies' operating systems, for example, NIO with Linux. While these companies are saving money, there becomes this thing of vendor lock-in and lack of flexibility as things become more and more complex from an application level. This might become a limiting factor. For today, it's understandable why most companies are taking the path of least resistance in this area, which is using the existing operating systems as the foundation. For today, these operating systems are flexible and mature enough. Imagine trying to compete with something that's had so much time to develop. That's going to cost tons of money. Capital is best spent in other areas of innovation, such as battery technology. Take NIO, for example. They will spend at least 1 billion RMB on battery technology alone this year, which I would agree is a more prominent issue than the underlying operating system at this point in time. In fact, I don't even expect NIO to create its own operating system. I think it would be important for a Chinese company who is a separate entity to create an operating system, and maybe the government could contribute to funding a project of the such. Before Android took over the smartphone market, many smartphone companies were desperately trying to build out their own Linux-based operating systems, competing for that spot that Android has today. Android, an outside disruptor who wasn't interested in selling smartphones, solved the issue. This company saw the immaturity of smartphone operating systems as a barrier to entry for its mobile service. Something like this happening in China in regards to the automobile market could help the situation. This is something that must be watched closely, as it could be detrimental to many Chinese EV companies in the future from an innovation perspective. A lot of technology that goes into China's new energy vehicles is reliant on key components from foreign entities, i.e. the operating systems and chip technology like NVIDIA, Intel, AMD. These are all powerhouses in the semiconductor industry. Ultimately, that means that the development is reliant on foreign entities. That's a risk that can't really be overlooked. Many cars today in regards to internal combustion engines use the same operating systems for infotainment systems, and it works. There isn't much to it. It makes sense to have only a few choices as far as operating systems go for the infotainment application. When it comes to autonomous driving, there's a lack of pre-built operating systems. Every company is constantly trying to figure out the best way to do it, and it's becoming increasingly complex. To summarize, it could be a bottleneck down the road for China to have to rely on foreign entities when they're trying to innovate in the realm of autonomous driving. So what do you think? Should China start making major investments today in operating systems, or is it not that big of a deal? And are all the benefits of outsourcing this to foreign open source companies too attractive to pivot away? That's going to be it for this video. I want to know what you guys think about China not really having its own operating system and really just using open sources from around the world. If you found this video interesting, educational, or even entertaining, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and of course, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you.